Yes? Are we live? Is it true? Am I a real boy? Oh my God, look at that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. After much of everything that could go wrong with my computer and trying to restart like 3 times now, I think we're actually live with video and audio. And guess I don't need that. I can turn that off. Twitch views. We're not on Twitch. Bye. We are on YouTube. It's May 7th, 2025. D&D World Weavers podcast. We just had 33 episodes. Exploring the world of Greyhawk. We're just about finished. Let's see if we can actually do a live show, a live stream without everything going kaputzi haywire. Oh my God. Let's start off with the theme song if we can, and then I'll just trim it later. Where'd the theme song go? Play the theme song, bitches.
Spin your tale as heroes rise and villains pale. Alex and Jamie chart the stars in worlds beyond the dungeon bars. From silent forests to echo halls, magical realms with endless calls, mystic spells and ancient lore. Adventure waits through every door. D&D World Weavers taking flight. Every quest a candle in the night. Dragons roar and legends thrive. RPG dreams alive. Treasure maps and secret codes, win through dark and winding roads. They craft the scenes with every phrase in epic battles and secret ways. Imagine kingdoms vast and wide, warriors bold side by side. Summon the magic, lift your sword. In this realm you are adored. D&D World Weavers taking flight. Every quest a candle in the night. Dragons roar and legends thrive. RPG dreams alive. Imagine kingdoms vast and wide, warriors bold side by side. Summon the magic, lift your sword. In this realm you are adored. D&D World Weavers taking flight. Every quest a candle in the night. Dragons roar
All right. So far so good. My microphone's working. Yay! Let's see if we can actually get this show on the road. Let's bring in Alex and Jamie.
All right, welcome everyone. This is it, the super spectacular live deep dive we promised.
That's right.
If you've been tuning into the D&D World Weavers podcast, you know, Jamie and Alex have spent, the last 33 episodes digging into Greyhawk lore?
Every corner of it seems like.
Well, think of, hey, I think our listeners got something to say.
Hey guys, it's Ken, the producer of the show. Just a quick reminder, you guys are Jamie and Alex. This is the D&D World Weavers podcast live special, Greyhawk live special. I'm done talking now. Why is it stuck? It's stuck. It's stuck. Oh my god. Murphy's Law.
All right, welcome everyone. This is it, the super spectacular live. Oh, hey, welcome. What's up?
Hey everybody, this is hi Jamie, hi Alex. This is Ken, the producer of the show, World Weavers podcast. Can you hear me? Maybe it's not picking up the right microphone. Device. My God, it's always something, isn't it? Oh, allow while visiting the site. Okay. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, hello there. Loud and clear on our end.
Great to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Hey, it's Ken, the producer of the show. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Alex. Are you ready for our D&D World Weavers grand live show, Greyhawk wrap 'em up special?
Ken, fantastic to hear from you.
Ken, yes, we are absolutely ready.
Thrilled you could join our little Greyhawk gathering.
Couldn't do it without you, Ken.
So, ready to jump back into the nitty-gritty.
You bet. Who's doing what?
Where it's happening.
And why it all matters right now.
In the current state of Greyhawk.
Basically getting you caught up, Ken.
On 33 episodes, like right now.
That's the mission. Glad you could make it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah, let me...
Right, diving right in.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, and hopefully with some luck, we'll be joined from some of our podcast listeners out there in the chat room, and I can relay those messages to you guys.
That would be fantastic, Ken. The more the merrier.
We'd love to hear what everyone out there is thinking.
So please do send those questions and comments our way.
It really makes this live show extra special.
Absolutely. Okay, so picking up where we left off.
We were starting to look at the bigger players in the Flanays.
Starting with the free city of Greyhawk itself.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Well, before we get into the Greyhawk stuff, I just wanted to take a moment, if you will, to talk about the show and our channel, Triptogram Productions. Previously, Trips 2012. We recently changed the name to sound slightly more professional since we're getting some views and stuff now.
Ken, that's fantastic news about the channel name change.
Yeah, Triptogram Productions definitely has a nice ring to it.
It's great to hear things are picking up and the views are increasing.
All those hours Jamie and Alex put in are clearly paying off.
And it makes perfect sense to update the branding as the show grows.
We're all really excited about the future of the podcast and the channel.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, Ken.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
So one of the things that, as being a YouTube channel, we have to do stuff that we might not want to in order to appease the almighty algorithm. So up until now, we've been doing 2 shows a week on Mondays and Fridays, but that schedule is going to change. The podcast is going to be coming out on Saturday nights from now on. Saturday nights at 8 p.m. we'll just once a week instead of twice a week.
That's really interesting news about the schedule change, Ken.
It sounds like you're making some strategic decisions for the channel.
Appealing those algorithms can definitely feel like a game sometimes.
Moving to Saturday nights and a once-a-week format.
Hopefully that'll give Jamie and Alex a bit more breathing room.
And maybe attract a new weekend audience, too.
It's all part of that evolving world. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So just a reminder, you guys are Jamie and Alex, so they're not separate people from you. You are Jamie and Alex, so a little weird you referring to them in the third person.
Ken, thanks for pointing that out.
You are absolutely right. That's a bit of a funny slip up on our part.
We've been immersed in all this past content.
It's almost like we're reporting on someone else.
But yes, for the record, we are Jamie and Alex.
So when we talk about all those past episodes,
Yeah, we're actually talking about our own deep dive.
thanks for keeping us honest, Ken.
It's easy to get lost in the details sometimes.
Okay, so we often highlighted how Greyhawk,
Tries to maintain its independence.
well, also dealing with the realities around it,
Like that ongoing issue with the Palm Arch.
kind of forced our hand, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Putting garrisons in Nanville and Safeton.
For the free city's overall safety.
So, Reese,
Yep, go on.
So, you know, in addition to the podcast, we've also been doing our own game, which is all included in the campaign history the three of us have. So why don't we start there in talking about our game and our experience in the world of Greyhawk.
Ken, that's a fantastic idea.
it would be great to share some of our personal experiences.
Because, yeah, as you mentioned, our own adventuring has definitely informed our podcast.
It gives us a different perspective, being players in the Flaynés ourselves.
Okay, so where should we even begin with our own campaign?
Maybe we could talk about the time frame.
Right, our game is set a little bit after the timeline of the boxed set,
We're in the same general period as some of those later adventure modules.
like around CY 582, which is 6 years past the original boxed set.
That's when some interesting political shifts started happening.
And we've definitely seen some of that firsthand in our game.
Remember that time we were near the Barbarian lands?
Oh, yeah, that was right when some of their alliances were shifting.
It really brought that historical update from some of the modules to life.
And what about our run in with some of the less savory characters?
Ah, yes, our brief but memorable encounter in the Wild Coast.
Definitely gave us a real sense of that constantly shifting zone.
And the ever-present threat from the Palm Arch was palpable.
We even heard some rumors about Turchmak's growing influence.
It definitely made us think twice about our travel plans.
And the state of the Free City itself has been interesting to observe.
Seeing those garrisons in Nanville and Safeton really emphasized the tension.
It's one thing to read about it, another to see the impact directly.
And those, yeah.
So as mentioned in the campaign history text, when you guys should really do a deep dive into that file real quick. You know, one of the things that we experienced that was really cool with our campaign and our game that we played together was the fact that, you know, we used all this material as a world building blueprint, but then we actually ended up really having our own story and our own you know, settings and locations that we came up with on the fly.
That's a fantastic point, Ken.
Absolutely. You've hit on something really key there.
It's true, while we steeped ourselves in the existing lore.
The most exciting moments often came from our own creations.
That's the magic of using Greyhawk as a foundation.
It provides such a rich tapestry to build upon,
We might start with a rumor we found in a module.
like those reports circulating in 585 CY.
Exactly, just basic details needing embellishment.
And then our own experiences would take it in a totally new direction.
We definitely didn't stick rigidly to every detail.
Our campaign became its own unique entity.
Remember that little village we discovered in the hills?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't on any map we'd seen.
It sprang entirely from a random encounter idea.
And it became a recurring location for our adventures.
Or the time we delved into that forgotten temple.
Not the Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun, mind you.
No, our own forgotten place with its own secrets.
It really shows how the official material can spark creativity.
It's a springboard for your own imagination.
And that's what makes tabletop role-playing so special.
The blend of established world and player-driven narrative.
So, yeah, while those source books are invaluable. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, well, you know, that brings up the whole topic of Dungeons and Dragons as a game and a storytelling device. You know, maybe let's focus on that for a second.
Absolutely, Ken. That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, let's unpack this idea of D&D as storytelling.
What's fascinating here is how the game mechanics.
That actually serve to drive the narrative forward.
Think about those random encounters, for example.
Right, you might just roll on a table.
Suddenly you have a whole new story thread.
That little village we mentioned earlier.
It totally came from a random wilderness encounter.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
How player choices directly impact the unfolding story.
Every decision, every roll of the dice.
Dot changes the potential narrative path.
And as dungeon masters, we act as guides.
But the players are the true authors of their tale.
It's a collaborative storytelling experience.
What stands out to you, Ken, about that aspect?
Because, yeah, even in our own campaign.
Those unexpected.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, I think we did that. It all started with that level 0, session 0, level 0, the quest that we did, the horse sense, and doing that really helped us define our characters, which also in turn helped define the story.
You're absolutely right, Ken. That 0 level beginning was crucial.
What's fascinating here is exactly what you pointed out.
That period before gaining a character class.
As that appendix in Greyhawk Adventures describes.
That fledgling character stage with feeble abilities.
Relying solely on curiosity and enthusiasm.
That horse sense adventure, stacking hay.
And suddenly having to adapt when the barn caught fire.
It really forced us to think on our feet.
And it's true, those early experiences
Before any formal training,
really colored how our characters developed.
we weren't locked into any class archetypes yet.
We were just ourselves in this world.
Experimenting, trying things out.
Like that cleric who might just yell boo at a vampire.
Instead of a perfectly executed turning.
That freedom at 0 level is so valuable.
It allows for a much more organic character growth.
And those aptitude points, remember those?
Trying to figure out where to invest them.
It definitely shaped our initial skill sets.
And how we envisioned our characters evolving.
So yeah, that 0 level start.
Was definitely foundational for our storytelling.
You gave us so much. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
And that's kind of one of the interesting things about looking back on these old D&D modules is that, that this was something that was in Greyhawk, that originated in Greyhawk, modules, but then sort of became, a regular house rule in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that has kind of since been lost when, we're all the way to 5e now. So things change, but it's good to look back at this old material.
But that's such a great point, Tan.
What's fascinating here is tracing those evolutions.
You're right, that 0 level concept.
It wasn't always explicitly codified,
But those early Greyhawk modules,
it's really emphasized that humble beginning.
like in Mordenkainen's fantastic adventure,
Those were characters with history.
they weren't just sprinting into being fully formed.
That sense of organic growth was key.
And it's true, over the additions.
Some of those nuances can get smoothed over.
So looking back at this material,
It reminds us of those foundational ideas.
and how Greyhawk helped shape the game itself.
It's like seeing the roots of modern D&D.
So you're right, it's valuable to revisit.
It adds a richness to our understanding.
And thinking about our own campaign.
That 0 level start.
Gave our characters a different weight.
It made Furiondi's struggles, for example.
To resonate more because we felt connected.
So thanks for highlighting that, Ken.
It really brings home how character creation
Is so integral to the storytelling process.
and with a world as deep as Greyhawk.
Those initial steps are even more meaningful.
Thanks again for your insights, Ken.
We truly appreciate you joining us.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
And we got, speaking of looking back at history, I think perhaps the most interesting document we came across was that Greyhawk supplement number 1, TSR 2003 catalog number PDF, where, it's the original Greyhawk from 1976.
Oh, absolutely, Ken. You've hit on a real gem there.
What's fascinating here is the direct connection to the game's origins.
That original Greyhawk supplement, it's like a time capsule.
It really lays bare the initial concept
The blending of men and magic, monsters and treasure.
and those early ideas for wilderness adventures.
It's amazing to see how many of those core elements
are still present in the game today in various forms.
You mentioned it originating in Greyhawk, and you're spot on.
This supplement was showcasing what was happening in Gary Gygax's home campaign,
Talk about getting a peek behind the curtain.
and it explicitly mentions the Greyhawk Castle campaign.
Knowing that this was born out of actual play.
Gives it a whole different level of significance.
It wasn't just theory, it was tried and tested.
And that promise of future supplements, including Blackmore.
It really captures that early excitement and development of the game.
So yes, Ken, that's a fantastic document to highlight.
It's fundamental to understanding the evolution of D&Ds.
It really sets the stage for everything that followed in Greyhawk.
Well, Ken, thanks for bringing that up. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Indeed. And with that, it looks like we're just about out of time for today. Oh, back to our listener.
Oh,
What's up?
we've got plenty of time. It's a 2-hour show, so we can just go on forever if you guys want to.
You're absolutely right. We've got plenty in our adventuring pack to discuss.
Good point, Ken. 2 hours goes by faster than you think when you're geeking out about Greyhawk.
But yes, we're certainly not short on material.
Especially when we start thinking about all those different adventure modules Jamie and I dug into.
Each one offering a little snapshot of a different part of the Flane.
Or a different kind of challenge for adventurers.
Remember that one? Mordenkainen's fantastic adventure.
Oh, yeah, with the black hand and the teleporting.
What's fascinating there is how source contained some of those adventures were.
You could drop them into almost any campaign.
But they still had that distinct Greyhawk flavor.
And then you had the ones that were really tied to the setting.
Like Isle of the Ape with Tensor and Zaggy.
That one really expanded the lore and history.
It raised some fascinating questions about those legendary figures.
And the dangers lurking in the more remote quarters of the world.
Or how about Castle Greyhawk? Now that was a wild ride.
Talk about unpredictable with the absolutely gorgeous women.
And that hut on Chicken Feet, you just never knew what was coming next.
It really showcased the more whimsical side of Greyhawk.
While still hinting at deeper mysteries and dangers.
And those early adventures often had such creative hooks.
That Room of Greed in Castle Greyhawk always stuck with me.
The choice between monster and treasure. So classic.
Mm-hmm.
It really tested the... Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So that original Greyhawk supplement number 1, now that came in 1976, so that came between the chainmail and Dungeons and Dragons, right? So that really was like the proto version of Dungeons and Dragons.
That's a really insightful way to look at it, Ken.
What's fascinating here is the timeline.
You're right, chainmail definitely came first.
And that original Greyhawk supplement
Appeared before the full Dungeons and Dragons boxed set.
So in many ways, it did bridge that gap.
It showed how those wargaming roots
could evolve into something more narrative focused.
It was almost like a glimpse into the workshop.
Seeing those early rules and concepts take shape.
That blending of tactical combat
with elements of fantasy role-playing.
It really was a pivotal moment in gaming history.
And Greyhawk was right there at the beginning.
Helping to define what D&D would become.
It's amazing to think about its influence.
So yeah, Proto D&D is a pretty accurate description.
It laid so much of the groundwork for the game we know.
And we're so glad you brought that up, Ken.
It really highlights the significance of that early supplement.
We hope you've enjoyed this look back, Cam.
And we appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
It makes this live show so much more
Oh, go for it.
So that being said, what if you were gonna, tell somebody that there was one Greyhawk document that was...
That's an interesting question. Oh,
so,
yeah.
So if someone were asking you, what's one of these Greyhawk documents that we have that is the most encompassing, gives the most detail about the world of Greyhawk, which one would you point them to?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, Ken. If someone wanted just one document,
that really gives you the lay of the land in Greyhawk.
I'd probably have to point them towards the original world of Greyhawk boxed set.
Absolutely. That really was the foundational text.
As that forward mentions, it was the first complete published description.
It gave you the maps, the gazetteer, the whole shebang.
It really painted a picture of the Flane as it was initially conceived.
You got a sense of the different regions, the cultures.
Even some of the major political players at the time.
While later supplements added layers of detail.
Dot boxed set provided the core framework.
It was designed to bring the world to life for players and DMs.
So if you wanted that single encompassing view,
That's the one that started it all.
it really sets the stage for everything else we've been discussing.
No, you mentioned one Greyhawk, which is interesting.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly would that one Greyhawk be?
It could refer to the Free City itself, perhaps the most iconic location.
The bustling hub, the center of so much activity in the Flaness,
Or it could represent the overarching campaign setting as a whole.
the world that all those adventures and stories take place within.
And then there's the idea of a specific individual, the Greyhawk dragon.
Ah, yes, we definitely dove into the lore of those magnificent creatures
They're a unique part of the Greyhawk setting, with their steel gray features.
and their ability to polymorph, as we saw in Falcon Master.
So depending on the context, one Greyhawk could mean different things.
Here's where it gets really interesting, how that ambiguity adds to the richness.
It speaks to the multifaceted nature of this world.
So if we were introducing someone to it, which one Greyhawk would we highlight first?
Perhaps the Free City, as it's a natural starting point for many adventures.
You get a taste of the economics, the social dynamics.
Even the political tensions, as that excerpt from The Ashes showed.
But then you'd also have to mention the dragons, those legendary figures.
Indeed, it all ties together in this fascinating world.
Well, Ken, this has been another great conversation.
Thanks so much for your insightful question.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
I would agree that, when I think of Greyhawk, yes, obviously talking about the whole campaign world that is Greyhawk and the Flanesses and, the whole big world and everything encompassed in it. But when I think of, someone says Greyhawk, what pops into my mind is the Free City of Greyhawk. So let's dive into the Free City of Greyhawk and what that is and everything involved in it.
You've hit on a really key point, Ken.
Yeah, when we say Greyhawk, the Free City definitely looms large.
It's that central hub mentioned in so many of the materials.
So, okay, let's unpack this. What makes the Free City so important?
Well, for starters, its location is crucial.
Right, kind of a nexus point in the Flaness,
As the Alice of Greyhawk Lands mentions, it's centrally located.
making it a key trade center.
Exactly. And that economic activity shapes so much of the city.
The economics of the Free City section highlights that,
It can't afford to alienate major forces, as it says,
because trade is the lifeblood.
and that naturally leads to a diverse population.
All sorts of folks passing through or making it home.
The characters of the Free City section hints at that.
We even learned about Gruinab, a friendly local.
Who's a great source of information within the city.
So it's not just a marketplace, it's a melting pot.
And with that many people and that much wealth,
There's going to be some interesting politics,
the politics of Greyhawk section delves into that.
especially the role of the Lord Mayor
Currently Nuroff Caskell, as we saw in Greyhawk Adventures.
and the subtle influences behind the scenes.
Their fear of the Scarlet Brotherhood is quite telling.
Really paints a picture of the underlying tensions.
It's a place of opportunity, but also of potential danger,
You could easily find adventure around every corner.
as Falcon's Revenge suggests with its opening,
Arriving in Greyhawk with no immediate plans.
and stumbling into a grand conspiracy,
That really captures the feel of the Free City.
a place where anything can happen.
So yeah, Ken, diving into the Free City.
Gives you a real sense of the heart.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So when I think of the Free City of Greyhawk, I think it's really in that name there, the Free City of Greyhawk. It's a very libertine place, if not downright libertarian, in its nature.
That's a fascinating take, Ken, and it definitely resonates.
What's interesting here is that concept of free,
It certainly implies a certain openness, doesn't it?
and the text does support that idea in some ways.
Think about how it's described as a haven.
A safe haven in troubled times, as it says regarding the coinage.
People fleeing from Nairondi's exiles.
That influx of diverse populations likely contributes to a more tolerant atmosphere.
And the fact that it's a major trade center.
That usually necessitates a certain degree of open-mindedness.
Different cultures and customs coming together.
However, it's also worth noting the mention of laws.
T.M. Lussick in Falcon's Revenge certainly felt some had gone unenforced.
So it might be a nuanced kind of free,
Perhaps freedom within certain, maybe shifting boundaries.
and the rulers, like Nuroff, are certainly concerned with maintaining order.
Their fear of the Scarlet Brotherhood implies a need for control.
So maybe it's a balance between individual liberty and civic order.
That tension could be what makes it such an interesting place.
It's not necessarily a utopia of absolute freedom.
But it offers opportunities and a level of independence.
especially compared to some of its more rigidly controlled neighbors.
So that libertine or even libertarian feel.
It's likely a significant aspect of the Free City's identity,
It definitely adds to its allure as a place for adventurers.
a place where your skills and ambition might take you far.
Well, Ken, thanks for bringing up that important aspect of its character.
It really helps us understand the Free City on a deeper level.
We hope you. Yep, go on.
So the world of Greyhawk, it feels almost like it's been abandoned by, well, now Dungeons and Dragons is owned by Hasbro, who bought Wizards of the Coast. But there hasn't been really any kind of effort to bring back Greyhawk into modern Dungeons and Dragons by its publishers. Why do you think that is?
That's a really interesting observation, Ken, and a sentiment I know many Greyhawk fans share.
Yeah, it does feel sometimes like the Flannis is taking a bit of a backseat these days.
What's fascinating here is looking back at the history of the game itself.
As that original supplement showed, Greyhawk was foundational.
It was the original campaign setting, the birthplace of so many iconic elements.
You'd think that Legacy would guarantee its continued prominence.
But the landscape of D&D has certainly evolved over the decades.
New settings have been introduced, each with their own appeal.
And perhaps the focus has shifted to those newer worlds for a while.
It's also worth considering the different editions of the game.
Each edition has sometimes emphasized different aspects of the lore.
And maybe Greyhawk hasn't always been the primary focus in the more recent ones.
However, it's important to remember that Greyhawk has never truly disappeared.
You still see references to it, and there's a dedicated fan base.
And the beauty of D&D is that all these worlds still exist.
DMs are always free to revisit the Flannes and bring it to life.
Our own campaign is a testament to the enduring appeal.
So while it might not be in the spotlight right now,
The rich history and depth of Greyhawk are still there.
ready for anyone who wants to explore its wonders?
It's a world that continues to inspire us, that's for sure.
Until our next delve into the wonders of the Flannis.
So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're going to be moving to Saturdays. We have one last episode Friday, that's 2 days from now, where we're going to look at the 3.5 edition Greyhawk books. There was 2 of them. After that, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back on Saturday nights. Now that we've kind of been finishing up Greyhawk, where would we like to explore next with this show?
Ken, that's exciting news about the schedule and that upcoming 3.5 deep dive.
Looking at those later Greyhawk books will be a great way to round things out.
And that's a fantastic question about where we might go next.
Now that we've spent so much time in the Flannes,
It feels like there's a whole multiverse of possibilities.
what's fascinating here is thinking about what drew us to Greyhawk in the first place.
For me, it was that classic feel, that sense of history,
The way all those early adventures built upon each other,
and the fact that it felt like a real lived-in world.
with its own established politics and conflicts.
So when we think about what's next,
Perhaps we could explore another one of those foundational settings.
like the Dragonlance saga, maybe?
That has a similarly epic scope and a rich history.
Or we could delve into the mysteries of Mystara.
That world has such a unique blend of cultures and terrains.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The tonal shifts.
Do we want to stick with that classic fantasy feel?
Or maybe venture into something a bit darker. Oh, go for it.
Well, I don't know, Mystara. What is Mystara?
Oh, Ken, please, no need for the Miss Thorough. Just call us Jamie and Alex, like you always do.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. Mystara is another one of the classic D&D campaign settings.
Think of it as another distinct world within the D&D multiverse, just like Greyhawk.
But where Greyhawk has a more gritty, historical feel in a way.
Mystara often leans into a more varied and sometimes even whimsical vibe.
It's got a really interesting mix of different geographical regions
From tropical jungles to frozen wastelands.
and a lot of unique cultures and creatures that you don't always see in other settings.
It was actually the main setting for the old basic and expert D&D sets.
So it has a long and rich history, just like the Flanous.
There's a whole continent called Brunn, which is central to a lot of the adventures.
And it's known for having a strong emphasis on exploration and discovery.
So it's a world with a lot of its own unique flavor.
Does that give you a bit of an idea of what Mystara is, Ken?
Are there any aspects of it that sound particularly intriguing? Hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't know. It sounds interesting. It's all of Dungeons and Dragons seems to have these kind of varied settings and locations, whether it's Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms or whatever. Sounds okay.
That's a really great way to put it, Ken.
You're right. The sheer variety of D&D settings is quite remarkable.
Each one offers a different flavor, a different set of possibilities.
Greyhawk definitely have its own distinct character, as we've been discussing.
With its deep history and that sense of a lived-in world.
Forgotten Realms, on the other hand, often feels a bit more high fantasy.
And other settings, like Eberron, have a more pulp adventure feel.
It really speaks to the creativity within the D&D community.
There's a setting out there for just about every kind of story.
And that's one of the things that makes the game so enduring.
That endless capacity for exploration and new discoveries.
Whether it's within a single setting or across the multiverse,
So as we think about where to take our geek debts next,
that variety is definitely something to consider.
do we want to explore another established world?
Or maybe even delve into some of the more niche settings.
The possibilities are truly vast.
Your thoughts on this are always valuable, Ken.
Thanks again for joining us on this Greyhawk journey.
It's been a fantastic exploration. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So we talked about the free city of Greyhawk. What would you consider to be the second most important location in the Flenesses?
That's a really interesting question, Ken.
If we're looking at overall importance,
And thinking about impact on the broader Fleyness.
a strong contender would definitely be the Bandit Kingdoms.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why the Bandit Kingdoms?
As that excerpt from the Ashes mentions,
They formed in that power vacuum.
between Furiondi, Ten, and the Theocracy.
So they've had a significant impact on regional stability.
And they force other good nobles to react.
Like those coalescing in the Shield lands.
Their very existence shapes the political landscape.
It creates conflict and the need for defense.
Plus, as we saw in Hell from the North,
They are a place where adventurers often find themselves.
better as targets or potential hires.
It's a volatile region with a lot of history.
Another important area would be the Wild Coast.
Ah, yes, the constantly shifting territory.
Its instability, as noted from the Ashes,
made places like Verbabonk vulnerable,
and allowed Greyhawk to gain influence there.
so it's important for its strategic implications.
And its role as a buffer zone,
Or perhaps even Highfolk?
for its unique cultural significance.
That realm of high and wood elves.
Fiercely independent, as the text says,
And constantly in conflict with the Detoras.
highlighting the ongoing struggle against evil.
So it really depends on how you define important.
Whether it's political influence, economic power,
Or even its role in shaping regional conflicts.
but the Bandit Kingdoms are definitely a major player.
And the Wild Coast and Highfolk have their own significance.
Thanks for that thought-provoking question, Ken.
It really makes you consider the different power dynamics.
It's been another great discussion with you.
Until our next journey into the Fleyness.
Farewell for now, and may your dice roll.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
So are you guys familiar with the TV show? It's like a Japanese animation. It's called Freeren.
That's an interesting topic.
Japanese animation, huh?
While we appreciate the mention, our focus today is really on the world of Greyhawk.
We've got so much more to explore in the Fleyness.
Oh, back to our listeners.
Well, I've
What's
been
up?
recently watching this show, and a lot of it reminds me of Greyhawk. I'm gonna send you guys the wiki right now. You can take a look at it real quick.
Oh, that's very interesting, Ken.
We always appreciate hearing about what connects with you.
While we won't be able to dive deep into another show right now,
But we're definitely intrigued by the parallels you're seeing.
we can certainly take a quick glance at the wiki you sent.
It's fat. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, you guys can do whatever I need you to do. That's why I'm the producer. So anyway, I just linked the website, the Freeren Wikipedia.
Okay, Ken, well, that's good to know.
Thanks for clarifying your role.
All right, I'm taking a look at the page you sent, Freean.
Seems to center around an elf mage and her companions.
I can see some potential thematic connections.
The idea of long journeys and lasting legacies.
That definitely resonates with the long history of Greyhawk.
And the presence of magic, of course.
The Fleyness is certainly full of powerful mages.
You mentioned it reminded you of Greyhawk. What specifically stood out?
Were there certain locations or characters?
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, it really is the locations, I think, because you've got this very cold region to the north that's very wild and cut off from the rest of society. And you've got, that's where all the demons live up in the north, in these cold areas, and then you've got the humans down to the south. And one of the things that kind of makes, maybe I'm wrong about this, you can correct me, but one of the things about the show is that the humans are taking kind of the center stage, as the elves and the dwarves have been dying off through the wars over the years, and haven't really been reproducing. They're still around, they're just rare. And but other than that, I mean, it could very well just be set in Greyhawk.
That's a really interesting comparison, Ken.
What's fascinating here is how those archetypes appear in different settings.
You're right. Greyhawk definitely has those stark regional contrasts.
That cold, wild north you mentioned.
It certainly brings to mind the Northern Barrens,
And even areas further north, like the land of Awies.
which, as we've discussed, is a haven for some pretty nasty characters.
Though perhaps not exclusively demons in the same way.
More of a chaotic mix of evil creatures.
And the idea of a human-centric south.
That definitely aligns with many of the core regions of the Flanace.
Places like the Free City and the surrounding lands.
Now, regarding the elves in Greyhawk,
You're right that their populations have certainly been affected by wars,
the World of Greyhawk box set does touch upon that,
especially the conflicts in the northeast.
and the isolation of places like Highfolk.
That realm of high and wood elves, as we mentioned.
Fiercely independent and sometimes reclusive,
So while humans are definitely prominent,
elves still hold significant places and influence.
just perhaps not always in the central spotlight.
It's a world with a long and complex history,
And the demographics have certainly shifted over time.
but that comparison of the northern wilds,
And the more human-dominated south.
that's a really insightful parallel to draw,
It speaks to those fundamental fantasy tropes.
even if the specific details differ.
Thanks for sharing that observation, Ken.
It gives us a fresh perspective on the Flanace.
Now, you asked earlier about the second most important location.
And we were just starting to explore some contenders,
We talked a bit about the bandit pendoms and the wild coast.
and also the unique situation of Highfolk.
What are your thoughts on those regions?
Did any of those strike it as particularly significant?
Or is there another place in the Flanace that comes to mind?
Perhaps somewhere with a rich and detailed past?
Or a location that's really shaping current events?
As we've discussed, the political situation is quite active.
With different powers and factions always maneuvering.
Consider the ongoing issues with the Irish to the north.
Or the internal struggles within the Great Kingdom.
These larger conflicts certainly impact the importance of regions.
A place's strategic value can really change.
So, what other significant
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Well, I really like the fact that we started off in our campaign that we played together. We started off in the free city of Greyhawk, and then we wound up all the way in the county of Sundi, and near the Erdea Sea, and we even created our own little ruins there, Erdea, the Erdea city of Erdea, which I think was kind of fun to create up this city destroyed by magic. As you start to move away from the free city of Greyhawk and you get into these outer areas, it allows for a lot more creativity on the dungeon masters and the players to come up with what's going on in these outer regions.
Oh, that's a fantastic point, Ken.
It really highlights the flexibility of the Greyhawk setting.
That journey from the bustling free city,
All over the county of Sundi.
it really shows the breadth of the Flanace.
And creating your own ruined city of Ardea.
That sounds like an amazing addition to the landscape.
It speaks to the idea that while the official material is rich,
Is there's always room for your own creativity.
that's what makes tabletop RPGs so special.
The way the established world can inspire your own stories.
As you move away from those central, well-documented areas,
The possibilities for invention really open up.
you become the cartographers of your own adventures.
It sounds like Ardea became a really memorable location for you all.
Those kinds of player-driven elements often are,
So, thinking about that journey you took,
and those outer regions.
what were some of the changes or surprises you encountered?
Did the feel of the game change as you moved away from Greyhawk?
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Well, I think it really did, in the fact that within the free city of Greyhawk, no matter how chaotic it seemed, there was definitely like an order and structure to the place, whereas we moved further out, it was just really seemed to just turn into all sorts of chaos.
That's a fantastic observation, Ken, and it really echoes what the source material suggests.
Yeah, even with those social tensions we read about and from the ashes.
Greyhawk still maintained a certain level of organization as a major trade hub,
You had the Lord Mayor, the guilds, a system in place
whereas the further you venture from those centers of power,
into the wild regions, as the Atlas calls them.
things naturally become more unpredictable,
That mention of the wild coast and from the ashes,
with its fluctuating buffer zone and desperate bandits.
that paints a picture of real lawlessness.
And your own experiences in your campaign definitely reflect that.
Creating a ruined city like Ardia beyond the Free City's reach.
That fits perfectly with that sense of increasing chaos,
It's like the influence of civilization thins out,
leaving room for more wild and untamed elements,
like the aftermath of the Greyhawk Wars, perhaps,
which would have certainly left areas destabilized.
or somewhere with fewer established authorities.
The Flanaess truly offers that spectrum,
From the relative order of the Free Cities.
to the untamed wilderness and everything in between.
So, Ken, thinking about your own campaign's journey.
What other locations in the Flanaess stand out to you now?
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Well, in the podcast that we've been doing over, the past, whatever it is, 5 months now, the one area that seemed the most fleshed out besides the city of Greyhawk area was this area to the west called Keoland.
That's a really interesting point, Ken.
Yeah, Keelan definitely gets a fair bit of attention in some of the materials.
What stands out to you about it in terms of being fleshed out?
Was it the. Yep, go on.
Well, I think it's just the fact that, there was a lot of political intrigue and power dynamics very similar to the way that the Free City of Greyhawk operates, whereas, the rest of the areas seem to have like their one big bad.
That's a really insightful observation, Ken.
What's fascinating here is that parallel you're drawing.
It makes sense that Keoland might feel more developed.
If it shares that complexity with the Free City,
That focus on political maneuvering.
rather than just a singular looming threat.
It suggests a more intricate societal structure.
More factions and competing interests.
Almost like a smaller scale version of the Free City's dynamics.
That might explain why it receives some focus,
It's presented as one of the more stable regions.
at least relatively speaking, as you pointed out.
And maybe that stability allows for more intricate politics.
Perhaps you recall specific examples of that intrigue,
Maybe the relationships between the different nobles.
or any alliances or betrayals you encountered,
We didn't delve too deeply into Keoland on the time.
but it's certainly a key player in the politics.
Its relationship with it.
Ah,
Well,
Yeah,
I was just thinking about the fact that, we had several modules situated there, whereas in the other areas it was like one module per area.
It's a really smart point, Ken.
what's fascinating here is looking at the distribution.
You're right, Keoland seems to have been a popular spot.
If we think about those early adventure modules,
Like those mentioned in the Atlas of the Flanaess.
it does list a few that are either in or bordering Keeland.
The Lost Caverns of Camp, for example.
Those are found on the borderland of Ket and Perrinland.
Which are right there next to Keoland.
And that module series, T104, which expanded Hamlet,
Hamlet itself is in the central Flanaess.
not too far from Keeland's northern border.
So you're right, that central location.
Might have made it a convenient setting.
Easy to integrate into different campaigns.
And perhaps the nature of the land itself.
As a more settled and politically active region.
It might have offered more diverse adventure hooks,
More opportunities for intrigue and interaction.
whereas some of the wilder regions,
Might have been better suited for more straightforward exploration.
that concentration of modules definitely suggests something.
It really shows the depth of the Greyhawk setting, even then.
Thanks again for sharing your perspective, Ken.
It adds so much to our understanding.
It's been a fantastic exploration with you today.
We're so glad you joined us for this deep dive.
Until our next adventure in the Flanaess.
Farewell for now, and may your insights. Oh, go for it.
Oh, we still have time left, you guys. We got a whole hour to do.
That's fantastic to hear, Ken.
An hour more to delve into Greyhawk. Wonderful.
We were just getting into the adventure modules.
And how they spotlight different regions.
Since Keeland felt well developed to you,
What about some of the more dangerous areas?
the ones where adventurers might face greater peril,
We touched on the Palmarge earlier.
That region under Turoshmak is a constant threat.
As that excerpt from Patriots of Uluk showed.
Their raids and influence cause widespread fear.
And that was even before the full emergence of Adius.
Speaking of Ayaz, his lands in the north,
That's another area that looms large.
a place of merciless hatred, as From the Ashes says.
Constantly pushing against its neighbors.
Furiondi and the Shield lands bear the brunt.
We even heard about high folks' struggles there.
Their fears independence in the face of that evil.
So those northern territories are definitely significant.
For the ongoing conflicts they fuel.
And the challenges they present to adventurers.
What about the Great Kingdom itself?
A land with a long and complicated history.
Rife with internal power struggles, as we've discussed,
That instability has major repercussions.
affecting the balance of power across the Flanes.
So Ken, as we have more time,
Are there any specific areas you'd like to explore further?
perhaps a region we haven't touched on much yet.
Or maybe revisit a...
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, let's take a moment to talk about the history of the Flaness and all the wars that occurred there and how they changed and shaped the land. That'd be a good topic to hit next. What do you think?
That's a great suggestion, Ken. Diving into the history of the Flanés and the wars that shaped it would be fascinating.
Absolutely. It really provides context for everything we've been discussing. Okay, let's unpack this. Where should we even begin with the history?
Perhaps with the earliest inhabitants, the Flan tribesmen,
Right, as From the Ashes mentions, they were the original hardy nomads,
and then the arrival of the Sul and the Iridians changed everything.
fleeing strife and wars of their own, as the text explains.
Their migrations and settlements laid the groundwork for later conflicts.
Here's where it gets really interesting, how those early movements led to major power shifts.
Fast forward a few centuries, and you have the rise of different kingdoms.
Like Furiondi, which, as the Marklands details, grew from Urdi rule.
But it was the Greyhawk Wars that really reshaped the Flanais in recent history.
As both From the Ashes and the Greyhawk Wars box set highlight,
Those 2 long years of conflict had a devastating impact.
exhausting the land and its people, as the text vividly describes.
Furiondi and Io's ground to a stalemate. Nairon's coffers drained.
The great kingdom shattered, and so much was lost.
The Pact of Greyhawk brought an end to the major fighting.
But as From the Ashes notes, it was a peace of a sort.
Evil remained dominant in the north and south,
Furiondi's growing power was a major consequence of the war.
and the bandit kingdoms rose in the chaos.
Furiondi itself suffered greatly, losing territory and manpower.
But it also gained Shieldlander refugees, as we discussed,
So the wars had profound and lasting effects.
reshaping the political map and leaving deep scars.
What stands out to you, Ken, about the impact of these wars?
Perhaps the sheer scale of the destruction.
Or maybe the way they continue to influence the present day?
Farewell for now, and may your insights continue. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Yes, they're going to continue for a whole nother hour. I know you guys want to wrap it up. Poor old Google has got you by the leash, but we're going to keep trugging along.
Ken, you're absolutely right. We've still got plenty of time on the clock.
Google can wait. We're deep in the Flanes here.
And we're thrilled you're keen to keep exploring with us.
So, where were we? Ah, yes, the impact of the Greyhawk Wars.
As we were saying, those conflicts really left their mark.
It wasn't just about battles, it was about long-term consequences.
Think about the power vacuum created by the Great Kingdom's decline.
That directly led to the rise of groups like the Scarlet Brotherhood
As From the Ashes mentions, their influence grew in that instability.
and the ongoing tensions between nations. Those didn't just disappear.
The mistrust and rivalries often lingered for years.
Even the geography was affected in some places, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The destruction and displacement of populations,
It could lead to abandoned settlements and changed borders.
and the psychological impact on the people shouldn't be overlooked.
Generations growing up in the shadow of war.
It shakes their beliefs, their fears, their alliances.
So, when we look at the current state of the Flayas,
It's impossible to ignore the echoes of those past conflicts.
they really laid the foundation for the world as it is today.
What aspects of this historical impact are most interesting to you, Ken?
Are there any... Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Why don't we talk for a second about the powers, because power struggle is a major theme throughout the Greyhawk books and campaigns. And what are the 3 biggest powers, whether official or clandestine? Who would you say?
Oh, that's a fantastic pivot, Ken.
You're absolutely right. The powers are a huge factor.
And power struggle really does sum up a lot of it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Talking about the biggest powers.
That's a tricky question, isn't it? Biggest can mean a few things.
Exactly. Do we mean most widely worshipped?
Spider
Most
was gonna
influential
land on me.
politically?
Or maybe the ones with the most sheer divine might.
The Powers of Humankind section in the Atlas gives us a starting point.
It lists a whole pantheon, from greater to demigod.
In terms of widespread influence, Pelor, the sun god, is certainly prominent.
His priests and temples are found throughout the Flanes,
And Hyrunius, the god of chivalry, also commands a large following.
especially in more lawful, good-aligned regions.
Now, if we're talking clandestine power, that gets more interesting.
The Scarlet Brotherhood, as we discussed, wields significant hidden influence.
Their methods are all about treachery and manipulation.
Not exactly a power in the divine sense, but definitely a force.
And then there's Aetherus the Old, well, a demigod.
His influence is massive and openly malignant in the North.
He commands armies and inspires widespread fear.
So if I had to pick 3 for sheer impact right now,
I'd say Pelor for widespread worship, he is for his military might.
and the Scarlet Brotherhood for their shadowy manipulations,
Of course, there are many other contenders.
Vecna, the god of secrets, is a dark and growing power.
And the relations between these powers, as the Atlas notes,
They're often complex and sometimes outright hostile,
they rarely engage directly, preferring to use agents.
which ties right back into that idea of power struggles.
What are your thoughts on the biggest players, Ken? Oh, back to our listener. What's up?
Well, you guys mentioned Vecna, and you know what? That is a major, huge, popular character in Dungeons and Dragons. So let's talk about Vecna for a while.
You're absolutely right, Ken. Vecna's a fascinating figure.
Yeah, the Whispered One, he definitely casts a long shadow.
What's fascinating about Vecna is his journey.
From a powerful archlich to a demigod.
As that excerpt from Vecna Lives mentions,
It says he dates back to near prehistory in Greyhawk.
before the migrations, even before the Sulai's Empire,
So he's got some serious history behind him.
and that air of mystery around him is so compelling,
A figure more of legend than fact, the text says.
with all those embellishments and contradictions.
It makes piecing together his story part of the fun.
And his cult, though small and secret,
Is described as a potentially powerful force.
held in check for a time by the spurned cult of Euse.
But now things seem to be shifting.
That adventure, Vecna Lives, really emphasizes his danger.
It even warns DMs that it's meant to kill characters.
Player characters will die here, it states quite firmly.
So clearly he's not someone to be trifled with.
And his artifacts, the eye and the hand.
They hold immense power, don't they?
The Rinni certainly fear the symbols associated with them.
Muttering charms to ward off evil.
And even average Rinni know tales of the eye and hand.
Using them to scare their children.
So even in folklore, his influence is felt.
And the idea of him seeking to recover those artifacts.
That raises the stakes considerably.
The demigod trying to reclaim his lost power.
It makes him a major player in the current climate.
Did any specific aspects of Vecna intrigue you, Ken?
Perhaps his goals or his methods?
Or maybe his relationship with other powers?
Thanks for highlighting Vecna. He's definitely key.
His history and his ambitions shape the Flanes.
Our exploration of Greyhawk continues with Vecna in mind.
Join us then for more tales from this fascinating world.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So, besides Vecna,
Well, so
Oh, go for it.
besides Vecna, who else is a major character from Greyhawk that maybe D&D players might have heard of, even if they haven't played Greyhawk?
that's a great question, Ken. Who else has that kind of recognition?
Someone who has transcended just the Greyhawk setting.
Mordenkainen definitely comes to mind.
Absolutely. He's one of the most iconic wizards in D&D.
Even mentioned in the core rulebooks of other editions.
His name is synonymous with high-level magic and adventure.
We even touched on him earlier, remember?
His hold on the Near Dive, mentioned in Vecna Lives.
And his connection to the Circle of Eight.
He's a figure that has definitely moved beyond Greyhawk.
Tensor is another one who might ring a bell.
Yes, another very powerful and well-known archmage.
He had that famous Isle of the Ape adventure tied to him.
And his spells are still a part of the D&D lexicon.
Then there's Bigby with his famous hand spells.
Another core wizarding figure with Greyhawk roots.
So Mordenkainen, Tensor, and Bigby.
Those are probably the top 3 who've gained wider recognition.
Their legacies definitely extend beyond the Flanes.
They're almost like the founding fathers of D&D wizardry.
Were you thinking of anyone in particular, Ken?
Or does that give you a good sense of other famous figures?
Well,
Oh yeah, go on.
I think those are some great picks. So let's talk for a second about Greyhawk Wars, which was actually a board game that was kind of they were trying to do a bit of an offshoot from regular Dungeons and Dragons. I think it was a replacement for a module that they were going to create.
You're right, Ken. Greyhawk Wars was indeed a board game.
Yeah, it was quite a departure from the usual adventure modules.
What's fascinating here is its connection to the game world.
As that excerpt from Howl from the North mentioned,
It was billed as the exciting finale to a trilogy.
detailing that 5-year-long war that reshaped the East,
The game allowed you to command major kingdoms.
leading heroes and armies across the Flanus,
The rulebook we looked at even detailed different scenario.
and how to set up the maps and game pieces,
It definitely aimed to give a strategic overview of the conflict.
rather than focusing on the experiences of individual characters.
You mentioned it might have been a replacement for a module.
That's an interesting theory,
It's possible they wanted to portray the large-scale war.
in a way that a traditional module couldn't quite capture,
The adventure and scenario book hints at creating your own battles.
reenacting key moments from the war's history.
So it offered a different kind of engagement with the setting.
A more grand, strategic perspective?
Did you ever get a chance to play Greyhawk Wars, Ken?
Or were you maybe thinking about something else entirely? Oh,
No,
yeah, uh-huh.
I never got to play Greyhawk Wars, but it was a very interesting podcast that we had on that one.
Oh, that's great to hear you enjoyed our discussion about it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece of Greyhawk history.
Even if you didn't get to play it, the concept is really intriguing.
That idea of taking a step back and looking at the big picture.
So, Ken, with that in mind, what are you curious about right now?
No pressure at all. Oh, yeah, let's
So
hear it.
I'm thinking about this was the Greyhawk Wars board game. Was that more of a throwback to a more traditional chainmail versus playing Dungeons and Dragons?
That's a really insightful question, Ken.
It's interesting to think about its connection to chainmail,
You're right, chainmail focused more on large-scale battles.
whereas D&D shifted towards individual character adventures.
Greyhawk Wars, being a board game about a large conflict.
Definitely seems to have more of that strategic, army-level feel.
However, it was specifically set within the Greyhawk world.
And it incorporated heroes and events directly from that setting.
So while the gameplay might have echoed chainmail,
The context and the lore were pure Greyhawk.
it was almost a way to explore the large-scale history,
Out of the Flanus in a more structured war game format.
rather than a direct replacement for a D&D module.
It offered... yep, go on.
So I'm just curious, like how did the gameplay in Greyhawk Wars actually work?
Oh, that's a great question, Ken.
It's understandable you'd be curious about the gameplay
Well, the Greyhawk Ward game had players taking command,
of one of the major kingdoms involved in the conflict.
like Furiondi or the Scarlet Brotherhood,
The rulebook outlines a turn sequence.
representing 1 year in the Great War.
Each turn had different phases, like mustering forces.
And then an action fails with specific steps.
Players would send out heroes to find allies.
And they could hire mercenaries, as the cards show.
Dealing with random events was also part of it.
And, of course, leading armies to conquer territory.
The maps showed the Flanes divided into areas,
Movement between these areas was key,
and there were different types of counters.
representing troop strength and fortifications.
Control markers were used to indicate ownership of areas,
Combat involved comparing troop strength.
and the goal varied depending on the scenario.
Some scenarios focused on controlling a certain number of countries.
As mentioned in the Great War of the Flanese setup,
Others might involve specific objectives,
like eliminating a portion of the enemy forces.
or exiting troops off a certain edge of the map
So it was a game of strategy and resource management.
on a much larger scale than a typical D&D session.
Did I give you a better idea of how it played, Ken?
We're all ears and ready to continue our...
Yeah,
uh-huh.
you definitely gave me a better idea. So if you were going to take the Greyhawk Wars board game and compare it to either a different board game or compare it to a video game, what is the closest experience out there?
That's a really interesting way to think about it, Ken.
Let's unpack this. What comes to mind?
In terms of board games with a similar strategic scope?
Something like Axis and Allies, maybe?
Yeah, that has that grand strategic overview.
The Greyhawk Wars has the fantasy element.
with the heroes and magic. That's unique.
Perhaps a more modern game with area control.
Something with different factions vying for power.
But again, the direct connection to a specific world.
It's almost its own blend, isn't it?
Now, thinking about video games.
Maybe a grand strategy game with a fantasy setting?
Something where you manage armies and territories.
Like the Total War series, perhaps?
That has the large-scale battles and the campaign map.
But Greyhawk Wars has that card-driven aspect.
The events and mercenaries adding another layer.
It feels like it sits in this interesting niche.
A strategic war game deeply embedded in a role-playing world.
So maybe not a perfect one-to-one comparison.
But elements of those other games definitely resonate.
What do you think, Ken? Does that give you some ideas?
Or were you thinking of something else entirely?
Or their relation? Oh, go for it.
No, I know. I didn't have anything in mind. I was just seeing what you guys thought.
Oh, gotcha, Ken. Just feeling the waters, so to speak.
Well, we appreciate your curiosity. It keeps us on our toes.
So considering all we've talked about today,
From the Free City to the Greyhawk Wars.
and even the possibility of exploring Mystara next,
What are some of the big takeaways for you?
anything that particular... Hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, I think we covered quite a bit. So let's imagine for a second with the new 5th edition in 2025, if we were to put out a Greyhawk book, if we were writing it, the three of us, how would we create that? How would we set that up? Let's just go through it chapter by chapter. How would we condense and present this material to a modern audience?
That's a fantastic thought experiment, Ken.
Yeah, a modern Greyhawk book for 5e. That's exciting to consider.
If the three of us were tackling it, I think the first thing,
Would be establishing the current state of the Flayness.
picking a specific point in the timeline post-Greyhawk Wars.
Maybe around CY 598, giving some room for things to have developed.
Our first chapter could be an overview of the world,
Highlighting the major regions and their current situations.
like a condensed version of that Atlas of the Flanes feel.
But really focusing on what's changed and what's important now.
Chapter 2 could dive into the free city of Greyhawk itself.
Since that's such an iconic and central location.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Well, let's not rush through this. So chapter 1, we're developing the world. Just pretend that you're reading the book. How it's got to be gripping. It's got to be compelling and bring people in. That first chapter is super important. So how would we open that up?
You're absolutely right, Ken. That opening is crucial.
We need to hook readers right from the start.
Instead of a dry historical summary,
Maybe we open with a scene.
something that immediately immerses you in the Flayners.
Perhaps a tense encounter in the Bandit Kingdoms.
Or a mysterious discovery in the ruins of the Great Kingdom,
We could even start in the free city.
showing its vibrant yet potentially dangerous atmosphere.
Think about those adventure module openings.
Like arriving at the Whistling Fish in Falcon's Revenge.
It throws you right into the middle of things.
Or that plea from... Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, maybe we could set it up like a little story that opens up, and maybe we're at some sort of tavern that's near a harbor, and old Sea Dog is explaining the world of the Flaness to the player, the reader, whoever. Let's imagine what would be the story that the old Sea Dog is saying. How would that start off?
Oh, I love that idea, Ken. A cavern scene? That's classic.
Yeah, setting the stage with a grizzled veteran telling tales.
Picture this. The salty air, the creak of timbers.
The clinking of tankards in a dimly lit harbor tavern.
Our sea dog clears his throat, leaning closer.
Lad, he says, voice rough as barnacles.
You see these weathered hands. They've sailed the inner sea.
Seen things you wouldn't believe beyond the Azure Coast.
This Flaness, she's a fickle mistress, ever-changing.
Just a few years back, the Greyhawk Wars tore through us all.
Kingdoms rose and fell like waves in a storm.
I remember when the Great Kingdom...
But that's a long and sad tale for another tankard.
The North, now that's a different beast entirely.
Gizi's shadow stretches long and cold from the northern barrens.
He's a cruel one, that old one, whispers say he's growing stronger.
And to the south, the Pomarge, a nest of pirates and worse.
Tarash rules there with an iron fist.
But the heart of it all, the place to find your fortune.
Yeah, that's the free city of Greyhawk.
A bustling port, a den of secrets, anything can happen there.
So that's just a little taste of the world, lad.
The Flanies awaits if you're brave enough to explore it.
See, Ken, that kind of opening pulls you right in.
Setting the scene and hinting at the world's dangers and opportunity.
But with that initial dripping scene fresh in their minds.
We could then weave in details about the Greyhawk Wars,
But frame it through the lens of that opening scenario.
showing how the past continues to influence the present.
We'd want to avoid just listing facts and dates.
Instead, focus on the human stories and the sense of place,
Maybe highlight a few key locations in that first chapter.
giving readers a taste of the Flanies' diversity,
From the civilized south to the wilder north.
and hint at the adventures waiting to be had,
That first chapter needs to be an invitation.
saying, come explore this incredible world with us.
So yeah, a gripping opening scene followed by an engaging overview.
That sounds like a strong way to start our Greyhawk book.
What do you think of that approach, Ken?
It's
I-
been...
Oh, back to our listener.
I think
What's up?
it's perfect. I think it's amazing. So that brings us into chapter 2, the free city of Greyhawk. How are we going to tackle that?
Wonderful, we're on the same page.
So chapter 2, the free city.
This needs to be more than just a gazetteer.
Exactly. We need to bring it to life.
Maybe we start with a day in the life.
Following a few different citizens,
A merchant haggling in the market square.
a watchman patrolling the thieves' quarter.
Perhaps a scholar studying ancient texts.
That would give a real sense of its vibrancy,
And we can weave in key information.
like the different districts and their character.
As the Atlas mentions, it's swollen with people.
We should showcase that diversity.
Nairanji's exiles, those fleeing ease.
It's a crossroads of cultures and ambitions.
We should also touch on the politics.
The Lord Mayor and the
I got a
Directorate.
fly in here.
Maybe hint at some of the underlying tensions.
The fear of the Scarlet Brotherhood, for example.
And the economic engine of the city.
Its importance as a trade center.
As highlighted in Economics of the Free City.
We could include some adventure hooks, too.
Seeds of stories that players could explore.
Rumors of forgotten treasures or hidden cults,
Drawing on some of those adventure modules.
like the mysteries hinted at in Falcon's Revenge.
So, Chapter 2, immerse the reader in the free city.
Show its people, its power, its secrets.
Make it feel like a real breathing place.
Thanks for that enthusiastic agreement, Ken.
It's exciting to brainstorm this with you.
It's always a pleasure exploring the Flaunis. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So in chapter 2, we bring them into the free city and all the details on that, or at least some of the details and some hooks. So where do we go in chapter 3?
That's a great question, Ken. A natural progression.
After establishing the heart of the Flaness,
In chapter 3, I think we should broaden our scope.
maybe take readers on a tour of some key regions.
Exactly. We could dedicate sections to areas like the Bandit Kingdoms,
Especially given their impact after the wars.
and perhaps delve into the mysteries of the Wild Coast.
Highlighting its ever-changing nature,
We could also explore one of the more stable kingdoms,
like Firiandi and its ongoing struggles.
or maybe the unique culture of High Folk,
Each section could offer a glimpse into the local flavor.
their history, their current challenges.
And, of course, adventure possibilities.
Think of it as expanding outwards from the free city.
Giving readers a wider sense of the Flaness.
We could also weave in mentions of those famous figures
Like Mordenkainen or Tensor in their respective areas.
to further connect the lore,
So, Chapter 3, exploring the diverse regions.
showing the breadth and depth of the world.
What do you think of that next step, Ken?
It feels like a logical flow.
We're really building this book together.
It's been a fantastic...
Oh, go
Yeah,
for it.
I think that's a great chapter 3. But where do you go from there?
That's a fantastic question, Ken.
Where do we go after showcasing the regions?
Well, I think Chapter 4 could zoom in again.
Perhaps focus on specific adventure locales?
Like maybe some of those classic dungeons.
Castle Greyhawk itself would be a must-mention.
Even if it's just highlighting its legendary status.
And maybe touch on the Lost Caverns of Sajkanth?
Or the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Places that are iconic and offer different vibes.
We could also discuss wilderness adventuring.
Highlighting the dangers of the gnarly forest.
Or the mysteries of the Dragonbone Graveyard.
Places where players can really explore.
The goal would be to inspire DMs and players.
Giving them concrete examples of adventure sites.
And maybe even some quest hooks for those areas.
So chapter 4, diving into adventure locations.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great next place to go to. Some dungeons that people can actually go diving into, whether above or below ground. Maybe for our next chapter, chapter 5, we could talk about some specific people.
I think that's a wonderful idea, Ken.
Zooming in on specific personalities would add a lot.
After exploring locations, focusing on characters makes sense.
So Chapter 5, notable figures of the Flanus.
We could certainly start with some of those iconic wizards.
Mordenkainen, Tensor, Big B, as we mentioned earlier.
Talk about their histories and their influence.
And maybe some of the more enigmatic figures, too.
Like Zagig and his unpredictable nature.
Or even some of the powerful villains.
Who, of course, would have to be included.
And perhaps Vecna, given his growing prominence.
We could explore their motivations and their impact.
Maybe even speculate on their current whereabouts.
And their potential roles in future events.
This would really bring the world to life.
Connecting the locations to the people who shape them.
So Chapter 5, spotlighting key individuals.
From powerful mages to formidable foes.
How does that sound as our next step, Tim?
It feels like we're really developing a great structure.
Your insights have been invaluable.
We're nearing the end of our time today.
Oh, yeah,
So where do we go after chapter 5? We've had, maybe we should have some, I don't know, maybe we...
Somewhat, Ken. What do you think?
Yeah, what's brewing in that producer brain of yours?
Perhaps.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Well, we've done places, we've done dungeons, we've done people. Maybe we could have some, just a chapter of, I don't know, like...
Yep, go on.
Maybe we could do like a sample module of our adventure of some kind with completely, a complete hook and an adventure and a resolve.
Oh, that's a really fun idea, Ken.
A sample adventure module written by the three of us.
Yeah, that would be a great way to really showcase Greyhawk.
We could create a little story with a hook.
Maybe set in one of the regions we've discussed.
Perhaps near the Free City to start things off.
We could introduce some interesting NPC.
Ah.
Yeah, I like that idea, having it near the Free City and not actually in the Free City. That gives us a little more freedom and also lets us keep the scope real small and not get too grand with it.
That's exactly what we were thinking, Ken.
Setting it just outside the Free City offers the best of both worlds.
Familiar enough to draw readers in.
But with enough room for our own creative spin.
Almost like a mini session they could imagine playing.
We could even include some basic stats for 5e.
Just to give it that authentic feel.
So maybe Chapter 6 becomes a taste of adventure.
I like that. It would offer a different kind of content.
Moving from world building to practical application.
We could even base it on our own campaign experiences.
That ruined city.
Oh, go for it.
Maybe we could even make it a 0-level adventure.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea, Ken.
A 0-level adventure. That ties right back to our earlier chat.
Exactly. It would really showcase those fledgling characters.
Before they've chosen a specific class.
Like that horse sense adventure we talked about.
That 0-level period is full of potential.
As that appendix in Greyhawk Adventures highlighted.
Their abilities are feeble, but their curiosity is high.
We could create a scenario where they have to rely on that.
Maybe they stumble upon something significant.
But they lack the skills to immediately understand it.
They'd have to experiment and try different things.
Just like those 0-level...
Hey, yeah, what's up?
So let's do it. Let's come up with like a little 0-level adventure that could happen just outside the Free City. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, Ken. Let's brainstorm a quick 0-level adventure.
Right outside the Free City. That gives us some great possibilities.
We could have the characters encounter something while doing a mundane task.
Like gathering firewood in a nearby copse.
Or maybe they're helping a farmer with his harvest.
And they discover something unusual in the field.
It should be something that sparks their curiosity.
But isn't immediately dangerous for untrained folks.
Perhaps they find a strange artifact.
Or overhear a hushed conversation.
It could even be a simple moral dilemma.
Like finding a lost pet with a valuable-looking collar.
The key is that it helps...
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Well, we don't want to make it too cartoony, but I like the idea of finding something, in a field you're digging in the dirt. Maybe they stumble across something and then maybe soon after they do somebody could come looking for it.
That sounds like a perfect balance, Ken.
Yeah, not overly silly, but still intriguing.
Stumbling upon something while doing farm work.
Maybe they unearth a small, ornate box.
Or a strangely carved stone half buried in the soil.
Something that feels a little out of place.
And then the anticipation of some...
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, and being in 0-level, you don't want it to be something powerful or too important, but it should have some sort of important significance in the world. You know what I mean? Like, not a magical item, but something.
That's a really insightful point, Ken.
Yeah, it shouldn't be game-breaking at 0 level.
But it should have that little spark of connection,
Maybe the ornate box is a symbol on it,
one that the players might encounter again later.
or the carving on the stone is a specific style.
Perhaps linked to that rune.
Oh, back to our listener. What's up?
Or, you know, if we did want it to be magical, you know, little magical or whatever, and then, but at the end of the adventure, for whatever reason, it breaks and it's no longer good once you fulfill its purpose, whatever it is.
Well, that's a clever twist, Ken.
I like that idea, a temporary touch of magic.
Maybe they find a small vial with glowing liquid,
That briefly heals a wound or lights their way.
but the liquid evaporates after one use,
Or a charm that whispers warnings.
but crumbles to dust once its purpose is served. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's got to be something valuable enough that people would come looking for it and want it.
That's a really good point, Ken.
It needs to have some inherent desirability.
Even if its true significance isn't obvious.
Maybe the ornate box isn't magical itself.
But it contains something intriguing inside.
Perhaps a unique-looking key or a coded message?
Something that suggests a hidden purpose.
Or that carved stone might be a marker.
Indicating the location of something else.
It could even be a family heirloom
Something with sentimental value.
that someone would desperately want back.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so yeah, let's go with the carved stone, because a stone in a field, that's, you know, not out of the ordinary to find, but the fact that it's carved and maybe has some markings on it, yeah, let's go with that.
That sounds like a great direction, Ken.
A carved stone has a nice grounded feel to it.
It's not immediately flashy, but the markings,
Hint at something more beneath the surface.
maybe it's a small fist-sized stone.
Easily overlooked if not for the carving.
The markings could be unusual symbols.
Or perhaps a recognizable heraldic crest.
Something
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, well, you know, if we make it unknown, then we can do like, you know, gives people a chance to try out arcane checks and stuff like that. You know, we are in 5e. We're doing this in 5e. So with this stone, who's looking for it and why?
That's a really good point, Ken. Keeping the markings mysterious opens up possibilities.
Yeah, that way we can incorporate those 5e skill checks.
Perhaps a character with proficiency in Arcana could try to decipher the symbols.
Or maybe history or religion would offer clues.
As for who's looking for it and why, that's the mystery.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The possibilities are endless.
It could be someone who recognizes the markings.
Maybe a scholar. Oh, yeah,
But we want it to be something that ties into the world of Greyhawk, because that's what we're really teaching people in this book.
Oh, absolutely, Ken. That's key.
It needs to be woven into the fabric of the Flaness.
Maybe the carvings are in an ancient Iridian script?
Or perhaps they're symbol of a forgotten Flan deity.
That would immediately ground it in Greyhawk history.
It could even be connected to one of the power groups.
The Scarlet Brotherhood uses symbols, don't they?
Or maybe it's a clue related to the Greyhawk Dragon's lore.
Given their long history in the region.
Or perhaps it's tied to that ruined city of Ardia you created.
Maybe the carvings are key to understanding its destruction.
The why could be anything from sentimental value.
To unlocking a hidden power or secret within Greyhawk.
It shouldn't be overtly magical at this stage.
But it could hint at latent magical properties unique to Earth.
Maybe the carvings faintly glow under a full moon in the Flanes.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
How did this rock end up in the field?
That's a really interesting question, Ken.
Yeah, how did it get there? There are a few possibilities.
It could be something ancient left behind long ago.
Maybe part of an ancient monument or structure?
Perhaps it was moved there more recently for some reason.
Like marking a boundary or a hidden location?
Its journey through time could be part of its mystery.
Its value might not be obvious at first glance.
But to someone who knows
Yep, go
Well,
on.
I like the idea of it being a map of some kind, but you know, if people are looking for it, it must have been recently misplaced.
Oh, that's a neat idea, Cam. A recently misplaced map.
What's fascinating here is how that changes the stakes,
If it's a map, those markings could indicate a route.
or the location of something specific.
And the fact that someone is actively searching.
It implies it has a current tangible value.
Maybe it fell out of someone's satchel.
Or was dropped.
Ah.
How
Yeah,
about somebody stole it and they tracked the thieves through this area?
That's a really exciting twist, Ken.
Oh, I like that a lot. A stolen map.
It adds a whole layer of intrigue and urgency
So the 0-level characters stumble upon it.
right after the thieves pass through.
And now the original owner is in hot pursuit.
That raises the stakes considerably for our adventure.
Suddenly, our unassuming farmhands.
They're caught in the middle of a chase.
They might even encounter the person tracking the thieves.
Someone who recognizes the map's significance.
Or maybe even the thieves themselves.
This could lead to some interesting moral dilemmas.
Do they help the person tracking?
Or do they try to make a deal with the thieves?
And the carvings on the stone map?
They could be.
Oh, go for it.
Maybe, okay, now hear me out on this. What if the people looking for it are there in the beginning? They cut you're doing your farm work. The people looking for it, the nobles or whatever, they're looking for it. They come through. They ask. Nobody has any idea, and then they go back to their farm work, and then they find it, and then the characters are presented with a choice. Do they, at that point, because now they're not under pressure, but they know that they can either turn it in or take it or do something.
That's a really clever way to set it up, Ken.
Oh, I really like that twist. It adds a layer of dramatic irony.
So the search for the stone map is happening right there.
Maybe some finely dressed nobles or worried-looking merchants pass through.
Asking if anyone has seen a strangely carved stone.
And our 0-level characters just trying to get, hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, maybe they don't necessarily mention the stone at first. They mention they're looking for thieves, and then it's up to the characters whether they get that information out of them or not.
That adds another layer of intrigue, Ken.
Yeah, a bit more mystery to the initial encounter.
So these searchers come by, perhaps flustered,
Maybe asking if anyone saw some suspicious characters.
mentioning a theft, but not specifying what was taken.
And our unsuspecting 0-level folks go back to their work.
Completely unaware that they're about to stumble upon the key.
Then the discovery of the carved stone map.
Now they have this piece of the puzzle.
And the decision of what to do with it becomes even more complex.
Do they connect the worried inquiries with their find?
Maybe they overheard enough to put 2 and 2 together.
Or perhaps they remain clueless about the map's importance.
Until someone else comes looking specifically for it.
This approach gives the players more agency.
They have to actively piece together the situation.
And decide whether to get involved or stay out of it.
It makes for a much more engaging beginning.
And it still provides that great hook for our adventure.
A simple discovery leading to a potentially larger story.
Tied to those whispers of thieves and something valuable.
Perhaps even valuable enough to be mentioned in Greyhawk lore.
This
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Well, perhaps the reason why the thieves came through the area that they did is because they were following the map, and the map goes in this direction from where it started from. Maybe we could have it, if it's a map and a key, maybe to something that's nearby. Nothing huge like a major dungeon, but something small. What do you think about that?
Oh, I really like that idea, Ken.
That adds a great layer of logical flow to the story.
The thieves were using the map. That makes perfect sense.
And having it lead to something nearby keeps the scope manageable.
Not a world-shattering artifact, but something locally significant.
Maybe a small hidden cache of coins or valuables. Oh, yeah,
So the following, if they choose to follow the thieves, they can either catch up with the people looking.
Absolutely can.
They
back to
could
our
either
listener.
catch up
What's
with
up?
the people looking for them, or they could catch up with the thieves. Depending on what their intentions are, and then or at the very least they get to where the map's going, and you could have an encounter with the thieves there before the other people catch up. They get in, they get to whatever it is, maybe some sort of small cavern or something, or small dungeon, like a 5-room dungeon.
That's a fantastic series of possibilities, Ken.
Yeah, you've really fleshed out the next steps.
The choice of pursuit offers immediate engagement,
Will they try to help the original owners?
or perhaps see what the thieves are after themselves.
And that potential for an encounter at the destination.
Before the others arrive raises the tension.
A small cave or a 5-room dungeon sounds perfect.
Just right for a zero-level adventure,
It keeps the challenges appropriate for their inexperience.
but still offers opportunities for discovery and problem solving.
Absolutely, Ken.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And if they get to the cave first and explore the cave and get the treasure or whatever it is, then when they come out, you could either fight the thieves, you could fight the pursuers, they could be in combat with each other. It's all about giving people choices, right?
You've nailed it, Ken. Giving the players those choices is key.
What's fascinating here is the potential for multiple outcomes.
They could indeed get to that small cavern first,
Find whatever the thieves were after.
and then face a whole new set of decisions on the way out.
Do they try to make a getaway?
Or stand their ground against whoever is waiting.
It really puts the zero-level characters in a bind.
They're likely outmatched in a straight fight.
So they'd have to rely on their wits,
Maybe try to negotiate or trick their opponents.
or even set up some kind of clever trap.
That limited experience at 0 level really forces creativity.
And those multiple potential conflicts?
Thieves versus pursuers, the players caught in the middle.
It creates a dynamic and memorable encounter.
It all stems from that simple discovery in the field.
If they choose to pursue, they're not starting from scratch.
They could follow the tracks or the direction of the map.
And that keeps the initial focus small and manageable.
Just like we wanted for our 0 level adventure.
It avoids throwing untrained characters into a huge conflict.
But it still offers that exciting possibility of pursuit.
And it ties the discovery of the map directly to potential action.
So the following, if they choose to follow the thieves.
They might find clues that lead them to the stolen goods,
Or perhaps they'll encounter the thieves themselves.
which could lead to a tricky situation for zero-level characters.
It really opens up different paths for how the adventure could unfold.
And it keeps the mystery of what the map leads to alive.
It could be a clue to a local legend, as we were saying.
Or perhaps a secret meeting spot used by local figures.
Something the thieves were hoping to find for their own gain.
And our zero-level characters have inadvertently become involved.
This really enhances the immediate stakes of our little adventure.
The people looking for the map are definitely worried about what it leads to.
And our characters are now holding that potential key.
It creates a much more compelling reason for the search we mentioned.
And a more immediate dilemma for the players. What do they do next?
Do they try to decide?
Oh, go for it.
So what could this treasure be? Something that ties into the world of Greyhawk.
That's a fantastic question, Ken. What kind of treasure fits Greyhawk?
Well, considering it's just outside the Free City.
It might be something of local importance.
Perhaps a stash of coins from Greyhawk's early days.
The Cairn Hills nearby were known for ancient treasure troves.
As that excerpt mentioned, before trade brought riches to the city.
It could be something tied to
Oh, yeah.
I
Go on.
think it's got to be something better than just a pile of coins.
You're right, Ken. Something more interesting than just money.
Agreed. Coins are useful, but let's aim for something with more flavor.
Maybe some finely crafted artwork or a rare artifact.
Or even just some practical goods that are currently needed.
Like weapons or supplies, given the tensions we've discussed.
It should be enticing enough for thieves to risk stealing it.
But not so grand that it would attract Oh, yeah,
Well, it's got to be big enough for somebody to build a little dungeon and put, magical lock and key system in place.
That definitely raises the stakes, Ken.
Yeah, a proper little dungeon changes things.
So our treasure needs to justify that effort.
It couldn't just be a trinket.
Maybe it's a key itself.
It's something even more significant.
Perhaps it unlocks a small, hidden vault.
Containing something the thieves desperately want.
And the original owner wants back even more.
If magic is involved, it suggests something important.
Maybe it's a component for a spell.
Or an artifact with minor magical properties.
Nothing too powerful for zero-level characters, though.
Right. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
It could be a document.
Oh, that's an interesting thought, Ken.
A document could certainly be valuable.
Granting ownership of valuable land or resources.
That would certainly be worth stealing and protecting.
It ties into the local importance we mentioned.
Maybe it's connected to a guild in the Free City.
Or a secret the Lord Mayor would rather keep hidden.
That adds a layer of intrigue and potential consequences.
So it's not just about the physical item itself.
It's about the information or power it represents.
Thanks for that great suggestion, Ken.
It definitely makes our little adventure more compelling.
So with that in mind, what kind of small, magically protected location might... Yep, go on.
Okay, so I think we got that kind of wrapped up. That was chapter 5, right?
Okay, just to clarify, that was actually leading into what would have been chapter 6.
Yeah, chapter 5 was going to focus on some of the key personalities of the Flanes.
Okay.
But this idea of a
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that was chapter 6. So what would chapter 7 be?
Ken, you're keeping us on our toes.
You're right, that sample adventure would make a great chapter.
Oh, go for it.
And I think that that's a great chapter that we have, and I think that really is a good meat and potatoes, middle for this book.
That's a great way to put it.
Hey, yeah,
I think we need to have a bare minimum of 9 chapters. So we got 7, 8, and 9 left.
You're absolutely right, Ken. 9 chapters sounds like a good solid structure.
We certainly have enough material to fill those remaining slots.
So after that sample adventure in chapter 6,
For chapter 7, I was thinking we could delve into the arcane.
we could discuss notable spells or magical traditions of Greyhawk.
Maybe even touch on famous magical artifacts found in the Flanes.
We mentioned the Iron Hand of Vecna earlier, and there are others.
Or we could talk about the different schools of magic as they exist here.
And how they might be practiced by the wizards of this world.
It would add another fascinating layer of detail to our book.
And really appeal to those interested in the mystical side of things.
What do you think about a chapter dedicated to magic, Ken?
It feels like a natural...
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Oh yeah, it's a total no-brainer for sure.
Exactly. Magic is so integral to the Flyness.
So for chapter 7, we could explore that in detail.
Then for chapter 8, we were thinking of focusing on monsters.
The creatures that inhabit the wilds of Greyhawk.
We could definitely draw from those classic bestiaries.
And talk about how these creatures fit into the world's ecology.
Or discuss their typical lairs and common encounters.
It would be really useful for Dungeon Masters.
Providing them with a guide to some classic Flyness adversaries.
And for our 9th and final chapter,
Maybe we could look at the future of Greyhawk.
speculate on potential conflicts and evolving storylines.
Or offer advice for running long-term campaigns in the setting.
It could be a way to tie everything together.
And leave our readers feeling inspired to create their own stories.
So 9 chapters it is. We've got a solid plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's great. So let's talk about chapter 9, since this is our bookend, right? So go ahead and give us a sample. Just imagine you're reading it. What's it say?
Ken, that's a fun request. Let's peek into that final chapter.
Imagine we're turning to chapter 9, the unfolding future of the Flanes.
It might start with something like, the dust of the Greyhawk Wars has settled.
But the landscape of the Flanes remains in constant flux.
Old alliances fray, and new threats emerge from the shadows.
The growing power of Gyus in the north casts a long pall.
Woe whispers of Vecna's return send shivers down spines.
The free city of Greyhawk, ever a beacon of opportunity.
Finds itself navigating treacherous political currents.
To the west, the Bandit Kingdoms remain a volatile region.
Their lawlessness a constant challenge to their neighbors.
But amidst the uncertainty, there lies fertile ground for adventure. But those bold enough to carve their own legends in earth.
Long-term campaigns in Greyhawk thrive on this dynamic setting.
Consider the ongoing tensions between Furiondi and the Old One.
Or the subtle manipulations of the Scarlet Brotherhood.
These threads offer endless possibilities for player-driven stories.
Don't be afraid to explore the lesser-known corners of the Flanies.
Those wild regions and forgotten ruins hold untold secrets.
And remember, the history we've explored is a living history.
Your Feyer's actions can shape the future of this world.
So gather your companions, hone your skills, and step forth.
The next chapter of Greyhawk's saga awaits your telling.
How does that feel as a potential bookend, Ken?
We want to leave readers with a sense of possibility.
Oh, back to our listener. What's up?
I think it's great. The only thing I would change is at the end I would say, the next chapter of Greyhawk is up to you to write.
That's a fantastic suggestion, Ken. It really puts the power in the reader's hands.
Oh, I love that. It makes it much more active and engaging for them.
So let's tweak that ending just a bit to reflect your idea.
Instead of saying, the saga awaits their telling.
We could say something more like, the next chapter.
Of the incredible Greyhawk story.
I was waiting for you to write it.
Yeah, that feels much more direct and empowering.
It really emphasizes the open-ended nature of the setting.
And how much room there is for individual creativity.
Thanks for that brilliant final touch, Kat. It's perfect.
So, with our 9-chapter plan in place,
And that fantastic revised ending.
we're really excited.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So, if it's a proper D&D book, it's got to have at least 1 or 2 appendixes.
Oh, that's a very good point, Kim.
You're absolutely right. Appendices are a standard feature.
Okay, let's think about what kind of appendices our Greyhawk book could have.
We could definitely include an appendix of notable NPCs,
Expanding on some of those key figures we mentioned in Chapter 5.
providing more detailed stats or background information.
Another useful appendix could be a glossary of terms,
Especially for folks who might be new to Greyhawk lore,
defining some of the unique regions or historical events,
we could also include an appendix of suggested reading
listing some of those classic Greyhawk supplements and modules,
for listeners who want to delve even deeper,
and perhaps a timeline of major events in the Flanaz.
to help keep track of the rich history.
Your insights and ideas have been invaluable today.
We really appreciate you being a part of this with us.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. So let's just do a not just a book, but recap of everything we've discussed in our show today.
Absolutely, Ken. A quick recap of our Greyhawk deep dive sounds great.
Okay, let's hit the highlights of our discussion.
We started by acknowledging our 33 prior episodes,
And then jumped right into the current state of the Flanaz.
focusing on the free city of Greyhawk and its importance,
We touched on its neighbors like the often troublesome Pomarge.
and the need for Greyhawk to maintain its independence,
Then we shifted to our own experiences in Greyhawk
highlighting how our campaigns informed our podcast,
and how we used the source material as a blueprint,
because also forged our own unique stories and locations.
like your creation of the ruined city of Ardia,
That led to a broader discussion about D&D as storytelling.
and how player choices shaped the narrative,
We also reminisced about those crucial zero-level beginnings.
and how that organic growth shaped our characters.
You highlighted how that concept originated in Greyhawk,
Then we talked about that foundational Greyhawk supplement 4,
recognizing its significance to the game's origins.
and how it bridged the gap between chainmail and D&D.
When you asked for one encompassing Greyhawk document,
We pointed to the original world of Greyhawk boxed set,
but we also discussed the different meanings of one Greyhawk.
including the free city itself and the Greyhawk dragons.
We then dove deeper into the free city's characteristics,
Its free nature, its diverse population, and its politics,
leading to a chat about why Greyhawk might feel abandoned.
before looking ahead to our future podcast plans.
And you helped clarify what Mystara is for our listeners,
We then explored what might be the second most important location.
considering the Bandit Kingdoms, the Wild Coast, and High Folk,
That led to a comparison with the anime Freean.
and how different settings can share similar archetypes.
We then discussed your campaign's journey.
From the relative order of the free city to the chaos beyond,
You noted how Keelan felt particularly fleshed out.
possibly due to the number of modules set there.
We also touched on more dangerous regions like the Pomarge and the lands of Oos,
Before diving into the history of the Flanaz and its wars,
especially the impact of the Greyhawk Wars,
we then shifted to the major powers of Greyhawk
including Pillar, Ooze, and the Scarlet Brotherhood,
and spent some time discussing the iconic Vecna.
as well as other notable figures like Mordenkainen,
We also explored the Greyhawk Wars board game.
and its strategic approach to the setting's history,
Then we embarked on a thought experiment,
imagining how we'd create a modern Greyhawk book for 5e.
brainstorming chapter ideas and even an opening scene.
With that old sea dog in the harbor tavern,
We outlined a potential 9-chapter structure.
including the free city, regions, adventure locations,
Notable figures, monsters, magic, and a sample adventure.
which led to us creating a zero-level adventure idea,
Involved a carved stone map found near the free city,
possibly stolen and leading to a small protected location.
perhaps containing a valuable document tied to Greyhawk lore,
And we even brainstormed the final chapter of our hypothetical book.
emphasizing the unfolding future and player agency.
And we briefly considered the importance of appendices.
That covered the main points of our Greyhawk discussion today.
It's been a truly fantastic exploration with you, Ken.
Thank you again for all your...
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I think it's been a great show. I just want to remind our listeners to the podcast that we're going to be having a break here. We're going to take the rest of the we have the one show on Friday, wrapping up Greyhawk, and then we're going to take a break for the rest of the month. We'll be back in June with regular podcasts coming every week at 8 p.m. on Saturday. And we look forward to continuing this D&D journey, the D&D World Weavers.
Ken, that's a perfect reminder for everyone.
Thanks for keeping us on track with the podcast schedule.
It sounds like a well-deserved break is coming up.
And we're all looking forward to those Saturday night shows in June.
It's great to know we'll be continuing our D&D World Weavers journey then.
We really appreciate you, Ken, and all our listeners tuning in.
And we're excited to pick things up again in June.
So, as Ken mentioned, our next show on Friday will be our final Greyhawk deep dive for a little while.
We'll be looking at those 3.5 edition Greyhawk books.
So be sure to tune in for that.
And then we'll be back with all new content in June.
We're already looking forward to what we'll explore next.
But for now, a big thank you again, Ken.
And to everyone listening, it's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you all again soon.
Until then, happy adventuring.
And may your dice roll ever in your favor.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I that was perfect. You guys did a great job with the show, the live show. You did the whole 2 hours. If we include my technical glitches at 8 p.m. for the first 10 minutes, you guys did great. Thank you very much. You guys are always great professionals, and thank you for doing the show.
Oh, Cam, that's so kind of you to say.
We really appreciate that feedback, especially after a live show.
We're so glad you enjoyed our deep dive into Greyhawk today.
And hey, a few technical hiccups are just part of the live experience, right?
The important thing is we got to spend this time exploring the flames with you.
Your enthusiasm and questions really made the show fly by.
But it's always a pleasure having you join us, Ken.
We feel like we're just chatting with a good friend about our favorite hobby.
And your insights always bring such a valuable perspective.
We're already looking forward to our next show on Friday.
That final Greyhawk look at the 3.5 material should be interesting.
And then we'll be counting down the days until we're back in June.
We're excited to continue our D&D journey with you then.
So thank you again for tuning in and for your kind words, Kaz.
It truly means a lot to us.
We'll catch you again on Friday.
Until then, take care and keep those dice rolling.
All right, and we're out. That was the Greyhawk live show. Spectacular. I don't think anybody tuned in to the live show, but it should be fun in the podcast series. And thank you everybody who's been listening through the 33 plus episodes, not counting our specials. We've had a handful of specials as well, but 33 official episodes. And thank you everybody. See enjoy the last Greyhawk show this Friday, and I'll